This is what you might call running off Prius power. Well, that is if you're using a Prius to actually do this. What I have here is a 1,000 watt pure sine wave inverter hooked up to my wife's Prius hybrid. Of course, you can do this setup with pretty much any gas electric hybrid and it works just great. So what's the motivation behind doing this? Okay, well, if you live in a part of the country like where I do, and you can expect an ice storm, on a pretty regular basis every 7 or 8 years, who wants to buy a generator that costs a couple $1,000s or, somewhere in that vicinity, and run it for a week and then, not have a use for it again for the next couple years? Well, this is kind of my answer to that question. Gas electric hybrids do not have an alternator. They do have a 12-volt system that powers all the accessories, that is actually charged and powered by a transformer coming from the main traction battery that's kind of actually packed underneath here. And while I have seen setups online that allow you to actually hook a big inverter up to that, run a couple 1,000 watts off of it, that's just not, we're not doing this on a regular basis. To me, it wasn't cost effective to do that at, the price of, when I could just go buy a generator basically and do the same thing. So what we have here, again, is an inverter hooked up to the Prius. I have to warn you before doing this setup is not sanctioned by Toyota, and if you have a new Toyota vehicle, it may void your warranty if they find out that you did this to your vehicle. Now, I have not had any ill side effects from doing this. According to my research, and I could be wrong, somebody who knows better may correct me on this, the 12-volt system will actually support up to about 100 amps. Constant. It's got kind of a, I don't know if I would call it a fuse or not, but a slow blow overload unit that's located somewhere up on the front of the vehicle, again from what I've read. Anyway, so it can support about 100 amps constant draw. A 1,000-watt inverter draws a little bit over 80. So if you're going to use it on a heavy load for a period of time, usually I would recommend turning everything else that you can off. You have to leave the vehicle running, of course, when you're doing this for long periods of time, or else your 12-volt battery will die. Anyway, what I've got here is just the inverter. It's got a little cable remote control attached to it that goes, basically it's hooked up via a phone wire, and it's got a little button on the other end, so you can run a RJ11 cable up to your house to turn it on and off if you want to do that. Now it's got 2-gauge wires, negative wire going into the frame. There's a bolt right underneath here basically. You just have to take this foam or plastic, if it's an older model Prius, cover out and undo the bolt. The positive wire goes to the battery terminal itself, which actually has a little bolt on top of it. Instead of taking the terminal off the post, you can just loosen the bolt, and you have to have a couple of washers to put down on top of it, or else your cable will not make it over the post basically, or it'll sit down on top of the post and won't sit down firmly on top of the bolt. And then it's got like a 90 amp marine circuit breaker in line, just to protect my vehicle basically, because I don't want to overload it, don't want to have to replace any more expensive, difficult to reach parts. It works pretty good. You can power I've successfully ran a 900 watt radiant heater off of this thing, and it doesn't even seem to flinch. By my calculations, you should be able to run this thing for 3 or 4 days on a single tank of gas. It'll run your refrigerator, run your wash machine, won't run the dryer, of course, because that's a lot heavier load and a different voltage. Anyway, it'll do quite a bit. Run the lights in your house, make it to where you can heat water if you've got a little, like a coffee maker or something like that. And like I said, it turns on and off with this remote, or it's got a button on the unit itself, but you can just see it come on. There's a little green light that comes on there. Anyway, you just basically install it, and whenever you want to use it, turn the vehicle on, turn your accessories, all lights and everything off, turn the unit on, and you can just leave it sit parked. If you need to lock the vehicle when you're not in it, Priuses are kind of tricky because they have a wireless remote that it basically is a keyless start, keyless entry. You actually have to exit the vehicle. First of all, roll the driver's side window down, exit the vehicle, lock it and then pull the window up, and you have to unlock it again using the manual key that comes with your wireless fob. That's just if you're worried about security, you know, somebody getting into your vehicle, because it is drivable even without the key in it until you turn it off. So I would recommend doing that. But anyway, just kind of thought I'd show you that setup. Again, this works as far as I can tell with pretty much any hybrid setup, at least any Toyota setup, because most of those are very similar. And it's kind of a neat, inexpensive way to do that. I only gave probably a couple $100, maybe, if that, for that inverter and the cables to run it. Anyway, it works pretty good. So thanks for watching.